If you had asked any Minecraft player before 2020 if there would be a time when Java Edition players and Bedrock players would be able to play together, they wouldn't believe you. But then, in mid-2020 with Geyser MC, it finally became possible, and everybody at the time thought that in the very near future, we would be living in a harmonious world where every major Java server supported Bedrock compatibility. Almost 2 years later though, and that's just not the case. Many large servers such as Hypixel straight up ban you for connecting on Bedrock, other servers completely blacklist it, and those who do allow it find they have lots of issues if not constant crashes, and Bedrock players straight up being allowed to cheat. So what went wrong? Well, what is Geyser and how does it work? Basically, Geyser acts as a middleware that translates or converts Minecraft Bedrock Edition player packets into Java player packets. This means that you can join any Java Edition server, even if the server doesn't have a specific Geyser plugin. But if a server actually wants to support Bedrock players, they can use the plugin themselves to make compatibility better. On a simple scale, this is really great. Let's say you want to play survival with some friends, but some of them are on Bedrock and the others are on Java. Well, you can easily set up a Geyser server and allow them to connect. In fact, most server hosts have presets that allow you to set up Geyser servers with just one click. But when you try to bring that plugin to a larger scale is when the cracks begin to show. Before we get to that though, let's talk about the major differences between Bedrock and Java, which may prove problematic. First and foremost, there's the PvP differences. While Java PvP mechanics changed in 1.9, now including a hit delay as well as weapon damage changes, which make the axe deal more damage, Bedrock PvP mechanics never received such an update and are still 1.8 based. The offhand is also very limiting in Bedrock. While in Java you can put basically anything in your offhand slot, only a few select items can be placed and successfully dual-wielded on Bedrock, mostly combat related. Then there's the issue of bridging. A massive advantage Bedrock players have over Java is their unique ability to bridge. On Bedrock, you can actually place a block in front of another like so, without having to sneak and do it uncomfortably as it is on Java. It's really not that hard to use this mechanic either. Just after a few minutes of practice, I was able to do it while sprinting, without even stopping. I'm sure you can imagine just how unfair this would be in a minigame such as Sky Wars or Bed Wars. Bedrock also doesn't support certain things such as a spectator game mode. Alright, enough about that now though. Let's actually talk about the issues. And oh boy, these issues can range from the simplest things such as not being able to click a link in chat to basically becoming invincible and being able to dupe items. Now, one issue is that I don't have enough subscribers. Let's talk about that real quick. Alright, done. Now subscribe and help me get to 400k. We're getting pretty close. No pressure. Anyways, let's just say you want to run a simple vanilla survival server with Geyser. You likely wouldn't have many issues. In terms of performance, Java players have no issue when interacting with Bedrock players. It feels just the same as if you were interacting with Java players. However, there were some noticeable differences on Bedrock immediately. Breaking blocks and entities looks a bit odd. For some reason my sound either kept switching to one ear only, or it just wouldn't work some of the time. Also, the game is unbalanced because Bedrock players are able to use their superior bridging mechanics, but besides that, it's really well done. For any average person who just wants to play with their Bedrock friends on a private survival world, they won't have any troubles. It's when you begin introducing plugins to the equation that the issues begin to show. Let's say you and your friends are having a good time playing survival, but want to make the server public. Nothing too crazy, you guys just want a few more people to be able to join and make the server more fun. So you get the basic plugins, essentials for teleporting and setting homes, maybe a money plugin for economy, and a land claim plugin. Things are still pretty smooth and the server is growing, so you decide to get more plugins. Some players are complaining that people are combat logging. Alright, let's get a plugin that makes it so when players are hit, they enter a combat tag period where they aren't allowed to log out, otherwise they'll leave behind a fake entity of themselves which can be killed and will drop their items. Problem number 1. Bedrock compatibility with this is dodgy, and Bedrock players can seemingly log out and won't leave behind a combat log NPC. This basically means they can combat log with no issue. Alright, how about we try an alternative and use a plugin which prevents players running back into safe areas like spawn when they enter combat. Oh, surprise surprise, they can still sneak back in and are able to return to safety, unlike Java players who are flung back. That's not good. By the way, did I mention that when Bedrock players combat log and come back, they sometimes become invincible? Really puts the icing on the cake. Good news though, we got the plugin working now. Oh, and the Bedrock players NPCs can take knockback. This right here is a brilliant example of the issues any server will face when allowing Bedrock players to connect. Such a simple plugin that normally on Java only would take about 5 minutes without issue to set up, has multiple game-breaking bugs and mechanics scattered throughout. And I really need to reiterate, this is just for a super simple plugin. And yes, this isn't just a series of bugs I pulled out my ass. These are all legitimate issues my server og-network.net faced when we first made our SMP Bedrock compatible earlier this year. Let's move on to some other examples now. On my server we have this plugin called SMP Events. It's really cool, and basically every 30 minutes to an hour, a random game mode such as Spleef, FFA, One in the Quiver, TNT Run or more is selected. Players can click a message in the chat to join and play a quick minigame event where the winners get some in-game money. It's fun, easy, and offers the players a nice little minigame break from the tough and cruel survival world. Now, how do you think this worked with Bedrock compatibility? Well, first issue is that Bedrock players can't click links in chat. Now, this was a problem for a lot of other server features as well, including voting, linking to the shop or website, our Discord, as well as many other important features such as joining parties and accepting friend requests. It's a bug that still hasn't been fixed, by the way. Okay, that's fine though. We'll set up a command Bedrock players can type to join instead. It's annoying and makes the chat a bit more cluttered and ugly, but oh well, it's the only solution. Oh look, they can't join anyways. Seems we'll have to figure out how to fix that as well. Alright, cool. Now everything's been fixed and Bedrock players can join events, finally. And oh wait, they can float over blocks in Spleef. Yeah, as it turns out, while Bedrock players don't look that laggy to the human eye, they are far from smooth on the server end and often glitch in and out of blocks, especially in situations like Spleef. Even the smallest of plugins has unique quirks that just has issues with Bedrock. We have a custom reputation plugin on our SMP, where you can give or remove players a point of reputation. Basically, this plugin acts as a way players can thank kind players who helped them, or down rep players who griefed or killed them. And rep is displayed next to all players' names in chat, by the way. Anyways, when giving or removing a point of reputation from a player, our custom plugin allows you to give a custom reason for that reputation increase or decrease. This custom reason was given through an Anvil-based GUI. On Java, players could just write in their reason and click. It wouldn't require or use any XP as it would normally if you're using an Anvil. On Bedrock, however, this did not work, and it required Bedrock players to have a level and also took one away. It's minor inconveniences and small issues like this, which happened with so many smaller plugins, that really made Bedrock compatibility a hassle. Like this, for example, we had an issue where some Bedrock players could just use their superior bridging mechanics that were meant to be disabled. Let's talk about larger scale issues now though. I'm sure you all know what dupes are. They are the bane of all economy based servers like my own, due to their devastating power if left unchecked. For 8 to 9 months when the SMP was Java only, the worst issue we ever had was an issue where players obtained barrier blocks from the cosmetics menu. A story for another time. But within the first month of Bedrock compatibility, we had the most major dupe exploit we'd ever had. Remember our lovely combat plugin issues? Well, as it turns out, some smart players on their phones figured out an exploit with this plugin they could use to dupe items. Basically, if a Bedrock player entered combat, threw their items on the ground, and then combat logged, and was killed in NPC state, when they logged back in, their items would magically be back in their inventory, basically doubling it all. This included shulker boxes, of course. So, as I'm sure you can imagine, it wasn't long until players had accumulated incomprehensible amounts of rare items and gear. Luckily, our mods caught onto it quick, tracking down the players, but a decent amount of damage had already been done, as these players had been distributing the items through hand, as well as through our player-run marketplace. It was a stressful 2 to 3 days, that's for sure. Oh boy, and don't even get me started on the anti-cheat. While Geyser does well to convert Bedrock player packets into Java, it seems it wasn't perfect enough, as we needed an entirely new anti-cheat just for Bedrock players, which barely functioned for the first few weeks we had it. Not only would it false flag often, spamming the chat like crazy, but it caused the server to crash oh so many times. And then there was voting side issues, which wouldn't work with the modified Bedrock names. Also, our donation store had to be completely reformatted to work with Bedrock, and now whenever a player who has donated wants to upgrade ranks, they can't if they've changed their username. And there was issues with the Bucket API, according to one of our admins, who mentioned it had a lot of trouble recognizing Bedrock player names. Overall, if you have a decent amount of plugins on your server, which all big servers do, then there are just lots of issues related to each one that are really difficult to solve in some cases. But let's move away from issues now and talk about something else. The main reason I can't currently see Geyser and cross compatibility taking over in the near future is due to server performance, and 1.8 specifically. When we released our custom survival games game mode a couple months back, which included a lot of unique in-game scenarios such as random spawns, speed and juggernaut, involving a lot of interacting mechanics, we tried to make it Bedrock compatible. Well, in doing so, we went from about 1 to 2 gigabytes of RAM being used in a single lobby, which keep in mind has a tiny map and a max of about 24 players, to almost 10 gigabytes with only about 5 or 6 players. And the game wouldn't even start, it would crash in the lobby every time. As we discovered, Geyser doesn't seem to work that well with native 1.8 game modes and plugins. This might also explain why many big 1.8 based servers like Hypixel ban players they detect are playing from Bedrock. This is a massive problem, because whether you like it or not, much of the Minecraft multiplayer player base is still playing natively in 1.8. If you want to see a future where Bedrock and Java players are able to play harmoniously together, this 1.8 barrier will likely need to be crossed. The issue isn't just isolated to 1.8 either. Even with our 1.18 SMP, our server memory usage increased drastically when we started supporting Bedrock, because Bedrock players require magnitudes more RAM per player than Java. I mentioned all the crashes we had as well, right? But look, overall, I want to point out that Geyser is incredible. What they've managed to do is something which nobody could have even imagined. So while my video may sound overly negative, it's only due to the fact that many of the amazing things Geyser has accomplished haven't been talked about here. I haven't talked about how Bedrock compatibility has allowed so much more of my community to play a proper non-pay-to-win SMP, and how it breathed life into the server with all the new players. It really was the right decision to make the SMP Bedrock compatible, and we wouldn't change a thing. You can join by using the IP og-network.net and port 19132. But what I've learned from making the server Bedrock compatible is that we are still quite far from a harmonious Bedrock and Java future. I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe and help me get to 400k. Thank you all so much for watching.